Imagine a world with no writing, no cities, no laws, no wheels, and no concept of time. Now imagine a civilization that invented all of these. Over 6,000 years ago, in the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians emerged, and in doing so, they laid the very foundations of human civilization. Were they the true creators of everything we know today, the Sumerians? When we look back at human history, few civilizations can rival the profound legacy left by the Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia. Living in the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in what is today southern Iraq, the Sumerians are often hailed as the world's first true civilization. Flourishing around 4500 BCE until their gradual decline around 2000 BCE, the Sumerians transformed human society in ways that still echo in our daily lives. They invented writing, developed the earliest known legal codes, engineered advanced irrigation systems, laid the groundwork for mathematics and astronomy, and created monumental architecture. But were the Sumerians truly the creators of everything? While this phrase might be an exaggeration, it underscores the remarkable breadth of their contributions. This essay explores the origins, culture, innovations, and enduring influence of the Sumerians, examining why they are often considered the bedrock of human civilization. The Sumerians emerged in the southern region of Mesopotamia, often referred to as the Cradle of Civilization. By around 4,500 before the Common Era, they had established permanent settlements in this fertile crescent, taking advantage of the rich soil and water provided by the rivers. Villages grew into city-states, such as Uruk, Eridu, Lagash, and Nippur, each functioning as a political, religious, and economic hub. Unlike many later empires, Sumer was not a unified nation, but a collection of competing city-states. Each city was centered around a ziggurat, a massive stepped temple that symbolized both religious devotion and political power. These city-states often engaged in rivalry and warfare, yet they shared a common culture, language, and religious framework. The very structure of these cities, organized, fortified, and ruled by kings and priests, set the stage for urban life as we know it today. Perhaps the most transformative of all Sumerian contributions was the invention of writing. Around 3200 BCE, they developed cuneiform, a system of wedge-shaped symbols pressed into clay tablets with a stylus. Initially, writing served administrative and economic purposes, recording trade, inventories, and taxes. Over time, however, cuneiform expanded into literature, law, history, and science. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's earliest known epic poem, was written in cuneiform, offering profound reflections on mortality, kingship, and the search for meaning. Writing allowed knowledge to transcend generations, making the Sumerians the first to truly store human thought. Without cuneiform, much of human cultural development, including laws, mathematics, and literature, would have been impossible. Religion permeated every aspect of Sumerian life. The Sumerians were polytheistic, worshipping a pantheon of gods who controlled natural forces and human destiny. Key deities included Anu, the sky god, Enlil, god of air and storms, Enki, god of wisdom and water, and Inanna, goddess of love and war. Each city-state had its patron deity and ziggurat, believed to be a bridge between heaven and earth. Priests served as intermediaries, ensuring divine favor through rituals and sacrifices. Sumerian myths, preserved on clay tablets, laid the foundation for later Mesopotamian religions and even influenced biblical narratives. For example, the Sumerian flood story, in which the hero Atrahasis survives a great deluge by building a boat, bears striking similarities to the biblical story of Noah. Religion also shaped Sumerian governance. Kings ruled by claiming divine mandate, while priests controlled temples and vast economic resources. Thus, the Sumerians were pioneers in codifying laws and creating structured governance. The Code of Ur-Nammu, dating to around 2100 BCE, predates the more famous Babylonian Code of Hammurabi by several centuries. It laid out laws regarding theft, marriage, property, and personal injury, establishing a precedent for written legal systems. This legal innovation was revolutionary because it provided a consistent framework for justice, rather than leaving disputes to the whims of rulers. In doing so, the Sumerians laid the groundwork for the very concept of rule of law, a principle central to modern societies. The Sumerians were practical innovators whose inventions shaped daily life. Their contributions included the wheel. Perhaps the most important Sumerian invention, the wheel revolutionized transportation and pottery making. Wheeled carts enabled trade and warfare on an unprecedented scale. Irrigation and agriculture. Sumerians engineered canals, levees, and reservoirs to control the unpredictable flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates. This innovation supported large-scale agriculture, producing surplus crops that fueled population growth and urbanization. Mathematics and astronomy. They devised a sexagesimal base 60 numerical system, which still influences how we measure time: 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. They also divided circles into 360 degrees. In astronomy, they tracked celestial bodies, laying foundations for calendars and navigation. Metallurgy and tools. The Sumerians advanced bronze working, creating stronger weapons and tools. Their mastery of metal allowed for improved farming equipment, which in turn boosted productivity. These innovations illustrate how Sumerians combined practical necessity with intellectual curiosity, creating technologies that have endured across millennia. Sumerian culture was rich in art and learning. Their sculptures, cylinder seals, and jewelry reflected remarkable craftsmanship and often depicted gods, rulers, and daily life. The ziggurats themselves stand as architectural marvels, precursors to later monumental structures. Education in Sumer was highly valued. Schools known as edibas trained scribes who held esteemed positions in society. Mastery of cuneiform required years of study, and scribes were indispensable for administration, trade, and preserving culture. Through them, Sumerian literature and knowledge survived long after the civilization itself declined. The Epic of Gilgamesh, beyond being literature, was a profound exploration of human existence. Its themes, mortality, friendship, the quest for immortality, remain relevant, showing the timelessness of Sumerian thought. The political landscape of Sumer was shaped by its city-states, each ruled by a king, known as a lugal, and a council of elders. While cooperation occasionally occurred, rivalry and warfare were common. The Sumerians developed some of the earliest organized armies, employing chariots, spears, and fortified city walls. Warfare was not merely destructive, it also drove technological and political developments. Victorious rulers expanded their city-states, sometimes creating short-lived empires. For instance, Sargon of Akkad eventually conquered Sumer, but his empire itself drew heavily on Sumerian culture, law, and administration. Thus, even when Sumer fell politically, its legacy lived on in successor states. The influence of the Sumerians cannot be overstated. Nearly every major Mesopotamian civilization that followed, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, built upon Sumerian foundations. Their writing system, legal codes, religious myths, and scientific discoveries spread widely, shaping not only the ancient Near East, but also later Western and Middle Eastern traditions. Even the Bible contains echoes of Sumerian myths and legal principles. Moreover, modern systems of law, mathematics, literature, and government retain clear roots in Sumerian innovation. To call them the creators of everything is hyperbolic, but they were undeniably the creators of many of the fundamental elements of civilization. The phrase "creators of everything" invites both admiration and skepticism. On one hand, the Sumerians did not literally invent everything. Other ancient cultures made independent contributions. Egyptians pioneered monumental architecture. The Indus Valley civilization excelled in urban planning, and the Chinese developed early forms of writing and philosophy. However, the Sumerians can rightly be called the first creators of civilization as we know it. They introduced the essential components of urban society: writing, codified law, organized religion, centralized government, trade networks, monumental architecture, and scientific inquiry. They were not alone in advancing humanity, but they were the first to assemble such a comprehensive and influential cultural package. In this sense, calling the Sumerians the creators of everything reflects their role as the pioneers of human civilization's building blocks. The Sumerians, emerging more than 6,000 years ago, shaped the course of human history in extraordinary ways. They transformed scattered agricultural villages into organized city-states, invented writing, codified laws, developed mathematics and astronomy, built monumental temples, and produced enduring literature. While they were not the sole creators of every human achievement, their innovations laid the foundations upon which later civilizations built. To study the Sumerians is to peer into the origins of civilization itself. They remind us that even in humanity's earliest cities, people grappled with questions of order, justice, faith, and meaning that still resonate today. Were they the creators of everything? Perhaps not literally, but in many respects, they were the creators of civilization.